Emma Reed stared at her computer screen, then blinked hard and looked again. The data couldn't be right. She had checked the deep space signals every morning for the past 5 years, and they had never looked like this. Actually, they didn't look like anything at all. Where there should have been the usual cosmic background noise, there was only silence. "Hey, can someone verify these readings?" She called out across the control room of the Global Space Initiative. A few heads turned her way. But it was her assistant, Pete, who walked over first. "What's wrong, Dr. Reed?" he asked, leaning over her shoulder. "Everything's gone quiet. All of it. The pulsar signals, the quasar emissions, even basic stellar radiation." Emma pointed to several graphs on her screen, all showing flat lines where there should have been peaks and valleys. It's like the universe hit the mute button. Pete's face scrunched up in confusion. "That's impossible. Let me check the equipment." But the equipment was working perfectly. Over the next hour, every scientist in the facility confirmed the same thing. The universe had gone silent. Emma's hands shook as she dialed the director's number. Within 3 hours, Colonel Thomas Hayes strode through the facility's doors, his military uniform crisped despite the early hour. Emma had worked with him before. He was the kind of man who took everything seriously, even his coffee breaks. Today, his usual stern expression was tinged with genuine concern. "Dr. Reed," he nodded as he entered the control room. "Tell me what we're looking at." Emma led him to the main display wall, where dozens of monitors showed the same alarming data. It started at exactly 3:47 a.m. Eastern Time. Every deep space signal we monitored just stopped. But that's not even the strangest part. She pulled up a new set of readings. "Look at these gravitational measurements." The colonel leaned forward, his brow furrowing. "I'm not a scientist, Doctor. What am I looking at?" "It looks like..." Emma paused, knowing how crazy it would sound. "It looks like the universe is pulling away from us. Not expanding like we're used to, actually pulling away, like someone hit reverse on a cosmic treadmill." Just then, one of the younger scientists, Andy, burst into the room. "Dr. Reed, you need to see this." He pulled up a live feed from one of their optical telescopes. The image showed a familiar star cluster, but something was wrong. As they watched, the stars seemed to dim, not like they were dying, but like they were retreating. Colonel Hayes pulled out his phone. "I need to make some calls. This goes way above my pay grade." Throughout the day, more reports flooded in. Observatories around the world confirmed Emma's findings. The universe wasn't just going silent. It was withdrawing, leaving Earth in what appeared to be a bubble of normal space. Late that night, Emma sat alone in her office, reviewing the data for the 100th time. A soft knock made her look up. Colonel Hayes stood in the doorway, looking more tired than she'd ever seen him. "The president has been briefed," he said quietly. "We're keeping this under wraps for now." But he walked over to her desk and sat down heavily in the chair opposite her. "What are we dealing with, Dr. Reed? And please, speak plainly." Emma took off her glasses and rubbed her eyes. "Honestly, physics itself seems to be changing. Everything beyond our solar system is beginning to operate under different rules. It's like the universe is upgrading its operating system, but Earth is stuck running the old version." The colonel was quiet for a long moment. "And what happens to us?" "I don't know," Emma admitted. "But I have a theory. These readings here." She pointed to a chart showing local quantum fluctuations. "They suggest that something about Earth, or maybe humanity itself, is anchoring the old physics in place, like we're creating a bubble of stability in a changing cosmos." Hayes stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the darkening sky. "So we're being left behind." Emma joined him at the window. The stars above were noticeably dimmer than usual, some already invisible to the naked eye. "Not left behind, Colonel. We're being isolated. The question is, why?" As if in answer, all the lights in the facility flickered at once. Emma's computer screen showed a sudden spike in local energy readings. Something was happening. Something that would change humanity forever. "Colonel," Emma said slowly, "I don't think we're being abandoned. I think we're being challenged. And how we respond in the next few days might determine the future of our entire species." Hayes turned to her, his expression grim but determined. "Then we better make sure we're up to that challenge, Doctor, because I have a feeling this is just the beginning." They both looked back at the sky, where the stars continued to fade like dying embers. The universe was withdrawing, but humanity wasn't going down without a fight. Ray Mitchell had spent 30 years watching things orbit Earth. As NASA's senior flight controller, he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. "They're all wrong," he muttered, checking the satellite data for the 4th time. Every single satellite in Earth's orbit had shifted position. Not by much, just a few meters, but in space, a few meters could mean disaster. He grabbed his phone and dialed the one person he knew would understand. "Emma, it's Ray. We've got another problem." At the Global Space Initiative, Emma Reed was already dealing with too many problems. It had been 3 days since the universe went silent. Now, looking at Ray's data on her tablet, she felt her stomach sink even further. "The satellites aren't where they should be," Ray explained over the speaker. "It's like the math changed overnight. The speed of light, it's different now. Faster. But only out there, beyond our atmosphere. Down here, everything's normal." Emma shared a worried look with Colonel Hayes, who stood nearby. "Ray, can you come to the GSI? Bring everything you have." 2 hours later, Ray stood in front of a room full of scientists and military officers. His gray hair was messy, like he'd been running his hands through it too much. On the big screen behind him, diagrams showed the changed satellite orbits. "Look at this," Ray pointed to a chart. "Light travels faster the further you get from Earth. It's like we're sitting in a bubble of old physics, while the rest of space is playing by new rules." Someone in the back of the room spoke up. "What about the stars?" Colonel Hayes stepped forward. "Show them, Dr. Reed." Emma pressed a button, and the room's lights dimmed. A live feed from their most powerful telescope appeared on screen. Where there should have been thousands of stars, only a few hundred remained visible. The others hadn't died. They had accelerated so far away that their light couldn't reach Earth anymore. "The public is starting to notice," Hayes said grimly. "We can't keep this quiet much longer." As if on cue, Emma's phone buzzed with a news alert. Amateur astronomers around the world were posting about the disappearing stars. Social media was exploding with theories. People were scared. "There's something else," Ray said quietly. He pulled up a new set of readings. "These are from experiments we've been running. When we send signals into space, they don't just travel faster, they change. It's like the basic rules of reality are different out there." Emma walked to the front of the room. "We're seeing the same thing in our quantum tests. It's as if—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "It's as if the universe is upgrading itself, but Earth is refusing the update." "Why us?" someone asked. "Why is Earth different?" Before anyone could answer, all the equipment in the room went haywire. Readings spiked, screens flickered, and for a moment, everyone felt a strange pressure in their heads. Ray was the first to notice what the readings meant. The bubble. It's not just around Earth. It's around us, humans. Look at these patterns. They match human brainwave frequencies. Emma's eyes widened as understanding hit her. "It's consciousness," she whispered, then louder. "It's human consciousness. Our minds are somehow anchoring the old physics in place." The room erupted in discussion, but Colonel Hayes's voice cut through the chaos. "What does this mean for us?" "It means," Emma said, looking at the data with new understanding, "that humanity has a choice to make. We can either adapt to the new universe, or make the universe adapt to us." Ray finished, a hint of wonder in his voice. Just then, Ashley Cooper, one of the GSI's top engineers, burst into the room. "Dr. Reed, the energy harvesting experiments. You need to see this." Everyone followed Ashley to her lab. In the center of the room, a simple device sat on a table. It was supposed to collect ambient energy from space. Instead, it was producing 10 times more power than should have been possible. It started when we had the whole team focus on it, Ashley explained excitedly. The more people concentrated, the more energy it produced. It's like our minds are affecting reality itself. Emma looked at Colonel Hayes, whose usual stern expression had been replaced by one of amazement. "Still think we're being left behind?" she asked. Hayes shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "I think we're being given an opportunity. The universe might be pulling away, but it just showed us something incredible about ourselves." As they watched Ashley's device pulse with impossible energy, Emma realized that this was just the beginning. The stars might be withdrawing, but humanity's story was far from over. In fact, it was about to become more extraordinary than anyone could have imagined. The world changed the day the Emergency Scientific Coalition was born. 2 weeks after the stars began disappearing, representatives from every major science organization gathered in a large conference room at the Global Space Initiative headquarters. General Diana Foster stood at the front of the room, her silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had commanded troops in 3 conflicts, but this was different. This time, humanity wasn't fighting other humans. They were fighting the laws of physics themselves. "The public knows everything now," she said, looking at the assembled scientists. "The panic has started. We need solutions, not theories." Emma Reed and Ashley Cooper sat in the front row. They hadn't slept much in the past week, too busy running tests on Ashley's energy device. Now they had results that could change everything. "Show them," Emma whispered to Ashley. Ashley stood up, holding what looked like a simple metal cube. "This is what we call a mind bridge," she said. "It's the first machine powered entirely by human consciousness." She placed the cube on the table. "Everyone in this room, please focus on the cube. Think about making it work. Think about power." At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the cube began to glow. Not with lights. The metal itself was shining, giving off a soft blue energy that shouldn't have been possible. "The more people focus, the stronger it gets," Ashley explained. "We found that human consciousness doesn't just anchor old physics, it can shape reality itself." The room burst into excited discussion. A scientist from Europe raised his hand. "But how is this possible?" Emma stepped forward. "We think the universe isn't really withdrawing, it's evolving. And instead of leaving us behind, it's forcing us to evolve too. Our minds are becoming like reality anchors. Or reality shapers," Ray Mitchell added from his seat near the back. General Foster raised her hand for silence. "That's fascinating. But how does this help us? The stars are still disappearing. The universe is still pulling away." Ashley smiled. "Watch this." She nodded to a group of trained volunteers who had been waiting quietly in the corner. They gathered around the cube, placed their hands near it, but not touching, and closed their eyes. The cube's glow intensified. Then, to everyone's amazement, the air above it began to ripple. Through the ripple, they could see what looked like stars. Clear, bright stars, like the ones that had vanished from Earth's sky. "We can reach them," Ashley said proudly. "We can extend our bubble of reality. But it takes focused human minds working together." Emma took over the explanation. "The universe didn't abandon us. It challenged us. And humans are responding by becoming something new, something more powerful." General Foster walked over to examine the cube. "How many of these can you make?" "As many as we need," Ashley replied. "But we'll need trained people to operate them. People who can focus their minds in the right way." "Then let's start training them," Foster said decisively. "Dr. Reed, Miss Cooper, you'll work with military specialists to develop a training program. Mr. Mitchell, we'll need your space expertise." "There's more," Emma added. She pulled up a display showing brain scans. Each time we do these experiments, the participants' brains show new patterns. We're not just using the power, we're evolving to handle it better. Each generation of devices and operators will be stronger than the last. A young scientist stood up. Are you saying we're becoming something else? Something more than human? No, Emma replied firmly. We're becoming what humans were always meant to be. The universe didn't withdraw from us. It stepped back to give us room to grow. General Foster took command again. I want training centers set up within the week. Every major city needs a mind bridge station. We're not losing our connection to the cosmos. We're going to forge a new one. As the meeting continued, Emma watched Ashley showing the cube to other scientists. They had discovered this power just in time. The universe might be changing its rules, but humanity wasn't accepting defeat. Instead, they were rewriting the rules themselves. Later that night, Emma stood with Colonel Hayes on the roof of the GSI building. Above them, the few remaining visible stars seemed to pulse with new meaning. Do you think we can really do this? Hayes asked. Change yourselves enough to keep up with a changing universe. Emma looked at the Mind Bridge cube in her hands. It was glowing softly, responding to just her thoughts now. Colonel, she said with a smile, I think we're about to show the universe exactly what humanity can do. The cube pulsed brighter, as if agreeing with her words. Somewhere in the distant, withdrawing cosmos, reality itself was about to learn an important lesson. Never underestimate the power of the human mind. 1 month after the discovery of the Mind Bridge devices, Emma Reed and Ashley Cooper made their biggest breakthrough yet. They stood in the GSI's largest testing chamber, surrounded by 50 of their best mind-trained operators. Ready? Emma asked Ashley, who was making final adjustments to a massive version of their cube device. This one was the size of a car, its metal surface gleaming under the lab lights. Ready, Ashley confirmed. She turned to Colonel Hayes, who had become a permanent fixture at their experiments. We're going to try something new today. Instead of just reaching out to space, we're going to push our physics bubble outward. Hayes nodded, then spoke into his radio. All personnel, clear the observation deck. Containment protocols in effect. The 50 operators took their positions around the giant cube. They had trained for weeks, learning to focus their thoughts in perfect harmony. Each wore a simple white uniform with a silver pin, the new symbol of the Emergency Scientific Coalition. Remember, Emma addressed the operators. Think about expansion. Picture our bubble of normal physics growing larger. Ready, begin. The operators closed their eyes. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then the cube began to glow with its familiar blue light. But this time, something was different. The light didn't just shine. It spread, creating a visible field that expanded through the chamber. Energy readings are off the charts. Ashley called out, checking her instruments. The field is stable and growing. Emma watched in amazement as reality itself seemed to bend. Through the expanding field, they could see normal space pushing back against the changed universe. It was working. They were actually extending Earth's physics bubble. Suddenly, one of the operators gasped. I can feel it, she exclaimed. I can feel the edge where the physics change. Others began nodding in agreement. They weren't just directing energy anymore. They were actually sensing the boundary between old and new physics. Keep going, Emma encouraged them. Push it further. The field continued to grow until it filled the entire chamber. Objects inside it began to behave differently. A pen that Ashley had accidentally dropped didn't fall. It floated, responding to her thoughts about where it should go. Tom, Emma called to Hayes, throw something through the field boundary. Hayes pulled a coin from his pocket and tossed it toward the edge of the field. As it passed through, it seemed to blur, like it was trying to exist in 2 different versions of reality at once. Bring it back, Emma told the operators. With their combined focus, they pulled the field back until it was just around the cube again. The coin dropped to the floor, now covered in strange patterns that seemed to shift when you looked at them directly. We did it, Ashley whispered. "We can actually push back against the universal changes." Emma was already thinking ahead. "This isn't just about maintaining our bubble anymore. We're learning to exist in both versions of physics at once. Do you realize what this means?" Hayes picked up the marked coin, studying it carefully. "It means we can start exploring the new universe on our own terms." Just then, Ray Mitchell burst into the chamber, out of breath. "You need to see this." He held up his tablet, showing readings from one of their deep space monitors. "The stars, some of them are coming back into view. But they're different." Everyone gathered around the tablet. The stars that had reappeared were giving off impossible readings. They seemed to exist in both old and new physics simultaneously, just like the coin. "We're not just pushing our bubble outward," Emma realized. "We're creating a bridge between the old universe and the new one. And some things are starting to cross over on their own." One of the operators, a young woman named Laura, stepped forward. "Dr. Reed, when we were maintaining the field, I could see them. Not just feel them, but actually see the stars through my mind. Like I could reach out and touch them." Other operators nodded in agreement. They had felt it too. "The universe didn't withdraw to abandon us," Ashley said slowly. "It withdrew to force us to develop these abilities. We're becoming the bridge." Hayes looked at the massive cube, still glowing softly. "How soon can we scale this up? Make it permanent?" Emma shared a determined look with Ashley. "We'll need more operators, bigger facilities. But now that we know it's possible," she smiled, "I'd say it's time to show the universe that humanity isn't just adapting to change. We're mastering it." Above them, through the facility's skylights, a few new stars flickered into view. They pulsed with strange colors, existing in two forms of physics at once. They were the first signs of humanity's growing power, bridges between the old world and the new, created by the unstoppable force of human consciousness. 3 months after the first successful bridge experiment, Ray Mitchell stood in front of humanity's greatest achievement yet, the Mind Ship. It looked like a normal spacecraft from the outside, but it had no engines, no fuel tanks, and no traditional controls. "Beautiful, isn't she?" Ray patted the silver hull of the ship. Around him, the massive hangar of the new ESD Space Center buzzed with activity. Hundreds of mind-trained operators worked at stations surrounding the vessel, their thoughts helping to maintain the expanded physics bubble that filled the building. Emma Reed walked up beside him, holding her tablet. "All tests are green. Are you sure you want to be the first pilot?" Ray grinned. "I've spent my whole life getting things into space the old way. I wouldn't miss this for anything." General Diana Foster approached with Colonel Hayes and Ashley Cooper. Ashley had designed most of the Mindship systems, replacing traditional technology with thought-responsive materials. "Remember," Ashley told Ray, "the ship will respond to your thoughts, just like the smaller bridge devices. But up there, in the boundary between physics systems, everything will feel different." Ray nodded, touching the silver pin on his chest. He had trained with the other operators for months. "I'm ready." The launch wasn't like anything anyone had seen before. There was no countdown, no roaring engines, no blast of fire. Instead, 50 operators stood in a circle around the ship, their minds linked through their training. Ray sat in the pilot's seat, closed his eyes, and thought about rising. The ship responded instantly, lifting smoothly into the air. Through the hangar's open roof, stars were visible, both the dim remnants of the old universe and the strange, new dual physics stars they had bridged to. "Mindship control. This is Ray." He spoke into his headset, beginning ascent. The ship moved upward, carried by the combined will of Ray and the ground operators. As they pushed their bubble of physics higher, Ray felt the moment they reached the boundary. It was like hitting a wall of thick syrup, but made of pure thought rather than matter. "Boundary contact," Ray reported. "Beginning transition." This was the tricky part. They had to maintain their bubble while also adapting to the new physics outside it. Ray felt his consciousness expand as the ship crossed over. Colors he had never seen before filled his vision. Reality itself seemed to bend around the ship. It's incredible, he breathed. I can feel the new physics. It's like reality is more flexible out here, more responsive to thought. Back on the ground, Emma watched the readings with growing excitement. The mindship wasn't just surviving in the new physics, it was thriving. Ray's trained consciousness was actually shaping space around the vessel. Look at this, Ashley pointed to a display. He's creating stable pathways through both physics systems, like mental hyperspace lanes. General Foster leaned forward. Can we send the fleet through those paths? They had been building more mindships, training more operators. Now they knew it would work. Humanity could actually push back against the universe's withdrawal. 6 hours into the flight, Ray made another discovery. Control, I'm seeing structures out here. Not physical ones. They're like thought constructs. I think I can interface with them. Emma grabbed her microphone. Ray, be careful. We don't know what. But Ray had already made contact. Energy surged through the ship's systems. New information flooded the computers. Ray's consciousness expanded even further, touching something vast and ancient. Oh my God, he whispered. I understand now. The universe didn't withdraw from us. It created this space, this thought space, to show us what we could become. We're not just pushing back against new physics, we're learning to master reality itself. The mindship descended an hour later, landing as smoothly as it had lifted off. When Ray stepped out, his eyes were different. They seemed to see more than they had before. We need to build more ships, he told the waiting team. And we need to train more operators. What's out there? It's beyond anything we imagined. The universe isn't our enemy. It's our teaching ground. Emma looked at the data they had collected. Human consciousness wasn't just adapting to the new physics. It was growing stronger, more capable. Each expedition would push their abilities further. The stars didn't abandon us, Ashley said softly. They just stepped back to give us room to grow. General Foster was already planning the next phase. How soon can we launch the fleet? Emma watched as Ray drew diagrams of what he'd seen in the thought space between physics systems. Humanity had taken its first real step into a larger reality. The universe had withdrawn, but in doing so, it had revealed humanity's true power, the power to shape reality itself. And they were just getting started. 6 months after the first mindship flight, Earth's orbit looked very different. 20 massive ships hung in space, their silver hulls gleaming with the strange light of dual physics energy. Each one carried a crew of 50 mind-trained operators and enough supplies for a year-long mission. Emma Reeves stood at the main window of the orbital command station, watching the fleet prepare for its greatest mission yet. They weren't just going to explore the new physics anymore. They were going to chase down the withdrawing universe itself. Final checks are complete. Ashley Cooper's voice came through the comm system. She was aboard the fleet's flagship, the Thought Seeker, making last-minute adjustments to her latest invention, the reality engine. Show me the engine, Emma requested. Ashley turned her camera to show a sphere of swirling energy at the ship's core. Unlike the earlier mind bridges, this device could harness the combined consciousness of an entire crew at once. It didn't just push against the new physics, it bent reality itself. Launch positions. General Foster's firm voice commanded from the control center. The fleet moved into formation, creating a perfect circle in space. Ray Mitchell, now fleet commander, spoke from the Thought Seeker's bridge. All crews, begin consciousness sync. Emma watched the energy readings spike as 2,000 trained minds linked together. The space between the ships began to ripple and bend. New colors that shouldn't exist filled the void. Sync complete, Ray reported, beginning reality fold. This was the moment they had trained for. Instead of just pushing their bubble of physics outward, they were going to fold space itself, creating a bridge to the distant parts of the universe that had withdrawn. The reality engine pulsed. Energy flowed between the ships like lightning made of thought. In the center of their formation, space itself began to tear open. Portal forming. Ashley called out. Her voice shook with excitement. It's stable. Through the tear, they could see them. The missing stars, the withdrawn galaxies, all glowing with impossible new energy. But they weren't just seeing them. Through their linked minds, the crews could feel them, touch them with their thoughts. Fleet, advance, Ray ordered. One by one, the ships moved forward. As they passed through the portal, reality shifted around them. The crew's trained minds adapted instantly, switching between old and new physics as easily as breathing. Emma watched through the fleet's cameras as they entered a space that didn't follow Earth's rules. Stars moved in response to thought. Light bent not just around gravity, but around consciousness itself. First target reached, Ray announced. They had arrived at a star system that had withdrawn months ago, beginning anchor procedure. This was humanity's next big step. They weren't just visiting the new physics zone. They were going to build permanent bridges between the old universe and the new. The fleet spread out around the star system. 2,000 minds focused as one. Reality rippled, folded, and then locked. The star system existed in both physics systems at once, permanently bridged by human consciousness. Anchor holding. Ashley cheered. We did it. We can bring them back. But something unexpected happened. As the star system bridged between realities, the crew's minds expanded even further. They began to see patterns in the very fabric of space-time, patterns that looked almost like thoughts. Control, Ray's voice was filled with awe. I don't think we're just bridging physics anymore. I think we're learning to read the universe's own consciousness. Emma leaned forward, staring at the readings. What do you mean? The withdrawal, Ray explained. It wasn't random. It was teaching. Like a parent stepping back to let a child learn to walk. And now we're not just walking. We're starting to understand the language reality itself is written in. Through the linked minds of the fleet, Emma could feel it too. The universe wasn't just a place of physical laws. It was alive in its own way, and humanity was growing to understand its thoughts. All ships, General Foster ordered, prepare for Phase 2. We're not just building bridges anymore. We're going to learn everything this new realm can teach us. As the fleet moved deeper into the transformed space, Emma smiled. The universe had withdrawn, yes, but not to abandon them. It had withdrawn to show them what they could become. And now, humanity wasn't just chasing the withdrawing cosmos. They were rising to meet it as equals. The chase wasn't about catching up anymore. It was about growing into something greater than anyone had imagined possible. 1 year after the first fleet launch, Emma Reed stood in a place that should have been impossible. She walked on a platform made of pure thought, suspended between two versions of reality. Around her, the combined consciousness of humanity had built something extraordinary, the Bridge Hub. The hub wasn't a normal space station. It existed in both the old and new physics at once, a massive structure that served as humanity's central point between realities. Through its vast windows, Emma could see both the familiar stars of the old universe and the consciousness-responsive systems of the new. Final connection complete, Ashley Cooper's voice echoed through the hub. She stood at the central control platform, where thousands of mind-trained operators worked together to maintain bridges across the cosmos. Ray Mitchell walked up beside Emma, his eyes glowing softly with the power they'd all learned to use. Remember when we thought the universe was abandoning us? He asked with a smile. Emma nodded, watching as another fleet of mindships passed through a reality fold. In just 1 year, humanity had spread throughout both physics systems, building colonies that existed in dual states of reality. Control Hub, this is Colony 7, a voice called over the comm. We've made contact with another thought structure. It's teaching us something new. This had become common. The more humanity explored, the more they found signs that the universe itself was conscious, not in a way they had originally understood, but as a vast pattern of thought and energy that had been waiting for them to evolve enough to perceive it. Colonel Hayes, now Admiral Hayes, approached with General Foster. Both wore the new uniforms of the Reality Command, decorated with symbols that shifted between physics systems. "The President is ready for your report," Foster said to Emma. "What should we tell her?" Emma gestured to the great viewing window. "Tell her humanity has graduated. We're not just survivors anymore. We're not even just explorers. We've become shepherds of reality itself." She wasn't exaggerating. Through the window, they could all see the fruits of their evolution. Humans now maintained vast networks of consciousness-powered bridges throughout space. They had learned to read and write in the language of reality itself, creating stable paths between the old physics and the new. "Look there," Ashley pointed to a distant light. A new star was forming, but not through natural processes. A group of trained consciousness operators had learned to gather cosmic matter and energy, shaping it with their minds into a new stellar nursery. Creating stars, Hayes shook his head in wonder. "If you had told me this a year ago." A sudden alert caught their attention. One of the long-range reality engines had detected something massive approaching through the thought space between physics systems. "First contact," Ray breathed. They had all felt it coming. As humanity had grown in power and understanding, they had sensed other presences in the cosmos, other conscious species who had gone through their own evolutionary leaps. "Send the greeting," Emma ordered. Ashley activated the hub's primary reality engine. 2,000 operators focused their minds together, sending out a pattern of thought that transcended both physics systems. It was humanity's first conscious message to their cosmic equals. The response came not in words or signals, but in pure understanding. Through their evolved consciousness, every human felt the welcome. They weren't alone. They never had been. "Now we know," Emma said softly. "The universe didn't withdraw from us. It gave us a gift, the chance to become what we were meant to be." She touched the window, her consciousness extending through both realities. Humanity had not just survived the universe's withdrawal, they had transcended it. They were no longer bound by single laws of physics. Their minds could shape reality itself. "What do we do now?" Foster asked, watching as the first ambassadors of other conscious species approached the hub through folds in spacetime. Emma smiled. Now we take our place among the shepherds of reality. We help guide other young species when their universes withdraw. We maintain the bridges between physics systems. We help the cosmos itself grow and evolve." Through the hub's vast windows, they could see Earth glowing in the distance, now a beacon for both forms of physics. Humanity had risen to a challenge they hadn't even understood at first, and in doing so, had become something greater than they had ever imagined. The universe had withdrawn, but humanity's power had proven unstoppable. They hadn't just endured the change, they had mastered it. And now, as new gods of reality itself, they would help shape the future of consciousness throughout the cosmos. It wasn't an ending. It was just the beginning of humanity's greatest adventure.